the first thing we're going to start with today is the word on the street. Corey, what's going on?
Oh, I don't have it pulled up. I don't even have it pulled up. Look, I'm sitting there like, yeah, let's do this thing. Hold on.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Here to give you knowledge that you didn't know. Put you on some game, now you got a buzz. You are now listening to Cannabruhz.
Yo, what up, what up, what up?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, man, a whole lot of stuff. You guys are back listening to your favorite podcast, your favorite informative, favorite cannabis podcast. You know, what else could we say? You know, you're back with the Cannabruhz, okay? I'm Jerell.
I'm Corey.
And we are the Cannabruhz. Yep, you already know what's up, man. We back, another episode, just to let you know what's going on, man. Corey, how you feeling?
Man, I feel amazing. How about yourself, my man?
I'm good. I can't complain, man. I had to go ahead and say it one time, man. That goatee sharp, man.
Hey, man,
hey, this man Barber was on it, man. Hey. we only do plug talk for cannabis businesses only, but his barber was on it. I'm just saying.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. I figured I bring the goatee back, man.
Let's go.
I hadn't rocked the goatee in a minute, so I was like, you know what, let's do this thing for the podcast.
Let's do it. So you missing out, man. If you're only listening to this, man, you need to go to YouTube. You need to click on the link in the bio and go ahead and man, go let them know, man. We stay sharp around here. Okay. But look, another episode of the Cannabruhz. You already know how these episodes are structured. Okay. So first we're gonna hit you with that word on the street. We're gonna follow it up with put you on game. And then of course we have our infamous plug talk, where we shout out the emerging businesses that are in the cannabis industry doing their thing from whatever angle, whatever facet, whatever type of business or entity they may have. We got you. We're going to plug you in, right? So.
All right. So for word on the street, today what we're talking about is the legend, Hall of Famer, Chris Webber.
C. Webb. What's going on with Chris Webber today?
Now, Chris Webber is making big isn't the appropriate word. We're gonna say making ginormous, cannanormous moves.
Cannanormous moves. Let's go.
Cannanormous. So Chris Webber launched a players only holdings company, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what that is a $50 million cannabis operation and training facility out of Detroit, Michigan.
Very nice. Yeah, Chris Webber's from Detroit too. That's how you take it back home. Let's create them jobs. Let's get it going. So what is this going to include? What's in this $50 million facility?
So this facility has 180,000 square feet.
Okay.
First off,
let's go.
So the overall intent and purpose of a fraction of that square footage is going to be $60,000. I said $60,000. 60,000 square feet for cultivation.
Okay.
And 8,000 square feet for a dispensary. And then they have an undisclosed amount for a cannabis consumption lounge.
Okay.
So that's what's that math? 122, 112. Let me see, 12. I can't even do math right now.
It's no telling, but we still got a lot. So I would imagine you're talking about a multiplex, first of all. So right. if only you got about 68 that's actually, allocated to, the dispensary and the cultivation area. That cultivation area is going to be big enough to produce a lot. You know, it's gonna so
right.
that's awesome, because sky's the limit for those guys in what they can put together as far as, you know, manufacturing, producing, and the whole nine within this total of 180,000 square feet. It's a big deal, real big deal.
Right.
Yeah. What else do we know about them? The lounge.
So they got an exclusive partnership with one of the big time Michigan operators known as Gage Growth Corp.
Oh, okay.
And that exclusive partnership is for branded cannabis products. So how I take that is, so I'm thinking that so all the investors in the players only holdings, you know, they're the ones that purchase the building, the facilities, set up the cultivation, the dispensary, the cannabis lounge, all that stuff. But you know, we can't expect that all the NBA players, even though they've been in the NBA, have the what's the word I'm looking for? The acumen to run a cannabis business, right?
A lot goes into it.
Right. Yeah. So how I'm taking that is Cannabis Consumption Lounge is going to be the one that is using their exclusive brands, growing their brands in that cultivation, and they're going to be selling their brands in the dispensary, so that, you know, it's that value there, right? It's you know, yeah.
No, absolutely. That's a beautiful partnership. You know, you really look into that. You know, hey, we will only, you know, pretty much take care of you guys. You're our major client, and that's a big deal. I mean, you're talking about a lot of money. So now, whenever you see something like $50 million facility, $50 million complex go into a certain place, then you got to know that they expect much more to come out of it. So it's a lot of money. Like I said before, a lot of jobs to be created from this opportunity, a lot of money to be made. It's a really, really big deal, you know. And go ahead.
What I really want to see, this is what will really sell me on this entity / facility and partnership, is if they're able to provide for the social inequity, the cannabis social inequity in that area, right? So they have 112,000 of undisclosed space, right? So you take away the cannabis lounge. Let's say that's, I don't know, let's say that's 20,000 square foot, right? Yeah. So I believe that's like, I'm not gonna do that math, but that gives them room, I'm assuming, to help and help the people of color that have been impacted on the war of drugs, and help them get into the cannabis game and help use their platform to help foster other people of color. I think if that happens, then that's really gonna be a big deal, in my opinion, because not only are they using their platform as Black cannabis owners, but they're also helping reach back down and uplift all others that are looking to get in the game as well.
That's a fact. I mean, and that's not for us to tell them, what they should be doing, of course, with their business. But, a lot of space means a lot of opportunity. And like we said, a lot of money. So it's a lot of stuff and a lot of impact too. Who knows what can come out of this? But when you have those type of resources coming into a community, that's going to be huge, economically for that space, for that city, and we've seen Michigan have their ups and downs when it comes to, economic turns. So it's really dope to see them, him and his partners and whatnot give back to the city of Detroit, to the D, with something that is progressive it's in the right direction, right? It's headed towards the future. We know cannabis is here. Cannabis has been here, but it's really here. Now it's on a bigger platform, right? Now you have podcasts like ours. Now you have so many opportunities and legislation being passed in order to kind of lift the gates or push the gates back, right? So, man, that's really big. So shout out to Players Only Holdings, right? Even shout out to Gauge Growth Corp for doing a deal with them. They are what you consider a vertically integrated establishment, right? So on one of our other Cannabruhz episodes, we kind of broke down the different type of establishments you can have, and that was like when we were talking about New Mexico. So check that one out if you haven't. But it's a vertically integrated establishment as far as business classification, and that means they could do a whole lot with a whole lot. So, shout out to them, man. Yeah, Players Only, getting the nod from the Cannabruhz for sure. Yeah.
Yep. Cannabruhz stamp of approval.
Yep. Cannabruhz, right. Cannabruhz stamp of approval for sure. Hey, we need to create like a...
Yeah, that'd be dope. That'd be dope.
That bam, you get that Cannabruhz stamp. That's kind of fire.
And it's a cannabis leaf with our face on it.
Come on.
Wow.
Man, we gonna have to get somebody on.
It's literally dope. It's literally dope. But no, that's what's up, man. So yeah, that's good news, especially continuing that transition, like we were saying, from one opportunity to the next. Somebody who got the opportunity to play in the NBA, provide for their family and where they come from, to actually say it's not just dollars that I'm getting from the NBA and let's say charitable foundations, but we're talking about creating new business stuff that's going to keep going on and on and on and on. And who knows who that inspires. So keep on with the keep on, man. That's it. So of course we appreciate you guys, checking out that word on the street. But today we gotta put you on game. Game.
With that delay on it. Game. Put you on game. So pretty dope. Corey, I'm gonna have you actually go ahead and pull this up.
All right. So today on Put You On Game, we are gonna focus solely on California tax.
Yeah.
And to be more specific, we're gonna talk about that sales and use tax, that excise tax, and the different verticals within the industry and how the tax works with that, right?
Yep.
So we're pulling all this information from the cdtfa.ca.gov, right? So that's the state of California's their department where they handle all the tax. It stands for the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Up, bow. Okay.
So what I like about the website, which you normally get, a good detailed information on most government sites, but they do kind of break everything down. So if you're like a kind of novice with your knowledge of your business itself, and of course the tax side of it, then they definitely break everything down from the terminology to the process itself, and helpful publications to back up everything that they're saying, on the page, right? So
yep. So what we're about to do right now, I'm gonna give you a general overview just for those listening in, so you understand what exactly we're talking about, right? So we're gonna go through the different sections, and what they're gonna talk about is the different type of taxes, filing returns, and different things the cannabis businesses may need. Specifically, the distributors, the retailers, the cultivators, and the manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm not using a mouse. I'm using the little arrow pads, and it's trying to, when I press down, it goes side to side. There we go. I gotta click. I was like, wait a minute, what? All right, so let's go ahead and get started off with the distributor. So, Jerell, you want to go ahead and break down what a distributor is?
Right. For those that don't know, a cannabis distributor is a person who procures, sells, and transports cannabis between licensed cannabis businesses, such as cultivators or retailers, manufacturers, as we listed before. So a micro business licensed to act as a distributor must comply with all the same requirements as a distributor. So if you're a cannabis distributor, if you're watching this with us on YouTube, then you will see what's required of you, but we'll kind of talk about that. So first you need to register with the CDTFA for your seller's permit. If you make cannabis sales, basically, right? If you're selling anything tangible, right? As property in the state of California, you need to register with the CDTFA for a cannabis tax permit as well. This is separate from your seller's permit, so don't get that part confused. Make sure you have both. One thing that's going to be required of you is to collect the cannabis cultivation tax from the cultivators and the manufacturers from which you receive cannabis or cannabis products. So this is really key. So of course, the cultivators have their own responsibilities. The retailer is going to have their. Distributors are right there in the middle. You have to understand how to, one, save yourself some money by not taking on the cost yourself, which that really wouldn't make any sense. So make sure that you collect the necessary amount that's going to be taxed from the cultivators and the manufacturers. Sorry. But yeah, also collect the cannabis excise tax from the retailers you supply. So excise tax is going to be on the retailers, but you need to make sure you collect that from them, because this is what's going to be required of you to pay. So make sure you get that done. You also are required to provide an invoice or receipt to the businesses from which you collect the cultivation tax and excise tax on that cannabis. So, be on top of your business. Now, you should have someone on your admin team or your admin office that's able to invoice your clients. Make sure that you keep really good record and retention of all of those receipts from the businesses that you partner with. And then, of course, you are required to electronically file both your sales and use tax and your cannabis tax returns and pay the amounts due to the CDTFA. All right.
And a big piece from all of that is the responsibility of the distributor, right?
Right.
So you're the middle person. So you're collecting that tax from that cultivator.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're dealing with a retailer, you're collecting that tax from the retailer as well.
Yep. And
you're paying that to the CDTFA.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to remember, is you're working on both sides. It's like think of an arrow that's pointing both ways, right? You're responsible for both of those, and you always got to remember that.
Right. Yep. In addition, don't forget to make sure that you have your distributor license issued by the Bureau of Cannabis Control. So yeah, make sure you have that, which is something, if you haven't had this already set up, looking into creating a business that is solely responsible for distribution, make sure that you get that done. All you have to do is contact your city and or your county government office for information on your local licenses. Make sure that you're compliant. Okay.
Now, I'm sure many people are wondering, all right, so what's a cultivation tax? What's or the cannabis excise tax?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll break that down for you real quick. So the cultivation tax is the tax that's imposed on the cultivator for all the harvested cannabis that enters the commercial market, and it's based off of the weight and category of the cannabis. So the different categories is the cannabis flowers, the cannabis leaves, and the fresh cannabis plant, which we'll cover that a little bit more once we get to the cultivation tax specifically. But that's what is being taxed on within the cultivation tax.
Yep, got you. Okay. Yeah. And a lot of people, of course, are going to wonder, well, the amount, right? Like how much is the excise tax or the cultivation tax? Like you guys are going to wonder, the biggest question you're going to have is how much am I paying, right? What percentage of what I have am I paying? So kind of break this down to you. Currently, right? And this is as of right now, and this is the only thing we can speak for as of October of 2021. A 15% cannabis excise tax is imposed upon all cannabis or cannabis products sold at retail. Okay. And that's the average market price. That's what it's going based off of. They actually have some links that's provided on the website as well for the average market price. So you could do a little bit of like quick research. They provide you with those resources to be able to tell what is the average market price that 15% will be coming off of. So there you go there.
So again, that breaks down the 3 plants. And we're not going to go into the weeds,
right.
intended. We're not going to go into the weeds of the weed.
Right.
So again, definitely check out the website, the cdtfa.ca.gov, so you can get more definitions on some of the topics that we're discussing. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on from the distributor and go to the retailer.
We've kind of covered already that, it's kind of on what end of the arrow are you on, right? And that retailer is the most familiar position to be in. That's what we know as far as the dispensaries and everything that you can see at street level, right? Like you don't have to be in a rural area to run into a cannabis retailer, right? So a cannabis retailer is actually a person who sells cannabis and cannabis products directly to the consumer, right? Right? It's a micro business license to act as a retailer, must comply with the same requirements. If you are a cannabis retailer, the FDTFA requires that you register with them for a seller's permit, right? So you still have to have a seller's permit, much like the distributor, right? And then you also have to charge and collect sales tax on your taxable retail sales of cannabis and cannabis products and other products. Now, most people, the average business is going to put this on the customer. They understand it, pass along to your customer, save you guys some money so that, of course, it doesn't fall on you and it's coming out of any revenue that you may obtain. You have to electronically file your sales and use tax returns and pay the sales and use tax to the CDTFA, and make sure you check with the site. I would definitely go to cdtfa.ca.gov and just stay compliant, stay in the know as far as all of your deadlines that need to be made as well. Work with your tax professional and your accounting professional to make sure that all of that is set up in advance. Also, you have to make sure that you pay the cannabis excise tax that is due to your distributor. Do not remit cannabis excise tax on your sales and use tax return.
Say that one more time.
Right. So let me make sure that I'm going to say it again and break it down. So you have to pay the cannabis excise tax that is due to your distributor. We already talked about that, right? As a distributor, make sure you get it from the retailer. As a retailer, make sure you pay that excise tax to your distributor in full and on time. Do not remit cannabis excise tax on your sales and use tax return. So it must be included on the tax return is what that's saying. You cannot say, hey, I paid this to the distributor. And plus you want to make sure that you get all your full credit for what you have paid. You don't want to pay anything, right? Especially when it comes to taxes without proper documentation, invoice, receipt, and other documents as such. Also make sure that you provide your customers with those invoice receipts and documents, which includes this statement right here. Now, this one's going to make sure you want to get your pen and pad for this one. You have to make sure that invoice or that receipt to your customer includes the cannabis excise taxes are included in the total amount of this invoice. Now, your customers are liable for the cannabis excise tax until it has been paid to the state or you provide them with such an invoice or receipt. Okay, so make sure so you know where the liability is as far as those taxes. Like I kind of mentioned before, you're going to pass that on to your customers. So please make sure that this kind of legally states, hey, this is part of it. Right. Some people wonder why certain things cost what they cost. Well, that's where taxes come in. Right. In addition, you also must make sure you obtain cannabis retail license, which will also be issued by the Bureau of Cannabis Control. And of course, contact your city or county government office for information on your local licenses so you can make sure you're compliant.
Yep. And I know that's a lot of information. Mm-hmm. The biggest things, and I'm gonna say it for a third time, just for the people in the back that were on the phone scrolling and not paying attention.
Right.
Pay the cannabis excise tax that is due to your distributor. Right. Mm-hmm. So the amount that you as a business owner included within your total sales price, right?
Yeah.
That excise tax. You need to make sure that you're accurately accounting for that and of what you charge them. And when the distributor comes and gives you that product, you pay for that. You're paying them.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, let me say that a little bit better. So the whatever that gross amount of excise tax that you get. So let's say it's we're gonna make it simple. Let's say it's $100, right? And you got and of that $100, you got 10 products, right? Mm-hmm. So that $100 is gonna get broken up into $10 and tagged on to each product. So it's gonna raise that price $10 extra, right?
Right.
And that's to compensate for your excise tax.
Right.
And once you collect that from your customer, right, mm-hmm. you're gonna pay that out to your distributor.
Right. Think about it. You simply passing it. Don't get overwhelmed by the idea of more coming out of your pocket because it's not necessarily true, right? What you want to make sure you do is go ahead and charge for it. You know, and we're speaking directly to the cannabis CEO. So if you are a customer, a consumer, sorry, not sorry, right?
Right.
This part right here is not for you. Okay, so this is for the cannabis CEOs, the entrepreneurs out there. Make sure that you pass those tax liability on to your customers, your clients in the form of invoices or receipts or other documents.
Yeah.
Go ahead and pass it to them. Pass the actual tax to them. Once they pay you for that product, which is going to include the tax, you want to make sure that gets to your distributor. So you're not paying some additional amount that should have gone to your business to be divvied up. Right.
Right. Exactly. Yep. And then after that, or not after, you can do it before, it doesn't matter. But that sales and use tax, you're still responsible for as the retailer, as a dispensary. So you can't, don't forget that, okay, all right, I paid my excise tax to the distributor, I'm good to go.
Right.
No, you still have that obligation. Now, as Jerell said earlier, so that the excise tax is 15% imposed upon retail purchasers of all cannabis and cannabis products. So the consumer, right?
Yep.
to include medical cannabis, and distributors are required to calculate and collect the amount of excise tax due on the cannabis or cannabis products they supply you.
Right.
So that 15% excise tax is calculated based on the average market price of cannabis products sold in a retail sale.
Yeah.
And then you can look up average market price on the website. But again, as a retailer, you're required to pay that cannabis excise tax to your distributor and collect the cannabis excise tax from your customers. No cannabis and or cannabis products may be sold unless the cannabis excise tax is paid by the purchaser at the time of sale. Right?
When?
At the time of sale.
When again?
At the time of sale.
Yeah.
Right. So that's been a topic of discussion we've had with clients before.
Yep.
You don't want to go back and have to ask customers, hey, so I know we sold you those pre-rolls the other day, but we're going to have to charge you. We're going to have to charge you some more for those pre-rolls. We forgot to collect our excise tax.
How does that work? Right? Like where they do that at, right? Like,
right.
How does that work? Like, and especially thinking about it, like we say in the form of invoices, other documents or receipts, right? But normally you get a receipt and you say, I'm done. This is hand to hand. You know what I'm saying? You have, a glass case over there. I said I wanted that one. Let's keep it simple. I said I wanted that one. You grab that one. You charge me an amount. Whatever you tell me to pay, I'm paying it. Right. So it's not on me. I don't know anyone who's going to return back to the location just to pay tax. As a business owner, you're probably going to have to eat that. So you need to make sure that you're knowledgeable about this, which is why we're trying to put you on game so that you aren't in a pickle of sorts, right? Trying to collect that tax from your customer or dipping into your own pot to pay that amount.
So there's a couple more things definitely want to cover with the retailers.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the cannabis accessories, right? So already told you. So the things that are getting taxed, the excise tax is the actual flower, like the actual products. Now, when it comes to the retail sale of accessories, such as the pipes, rolling machines, vape pens, without the cannabis, right? Rolling papers, shirts, hats, books, magazines, they're all subject to sales tax, but they're not subject to the 15% excise tax.
Thank God.
So everything, the only thing that's subject to the 15% excise tax is the items that have cannabis, that contain cannabis within them. Yeah. If it's just an accessory, then they're not subject to that excise tax.
Word. Yep. Which makes sense. Makes sense.
And then the terminology that's used is arm's length transactions versus non-arm's length transactions.
Right.
If you wanna
go
ahead and educate them.
I will, because I just said hand to hand, but you knew what I really meant. What I really was referring to is the arm's length transaction. The arm's length transaction is a sale that reflects the fair market price in the open market between two informed and willing parties. So neither required to participate in the transaction, right? So it's not necessarily like an employee or something, right? Like has to be two willing participants who are, hey, I want to buy something. Hey, I want to sell something, right?
Yep.
In an arm's length transaction, the average market price means the average retail price determined by the wholesale cost of the cannabis or cannabis products sold or transferred to you, plus a markup, right? And that's just what it is. And I wanted to go ahead and make sure I transition that well, because it says plus a markup, and you're going to wonder about that markup rate. I mean, I want to go into what a non-arm's length transaction is, but while we're talking about cannabis products or cannabis sold or transferred to you, that is to include the markup, you're going to wonder what the markup rate is, right? So what's the markup rate, Corey?
So distributors naturally use a markup rate to compute the average market price of cannabis and cannabis products sold or transferred in an arm's length transaction.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, the markup rate is not intended to be used to determine the amount which you sell your product to cannabis. You sell your cannabis and cannabis products. You may use any markup you would like to establish a selling price. So any, like, you gotta think about it. Like if you get a product at wholesale, you're not going to sell it for that wholesale price, right?
Of course not.
You're gonna mark the price up. So if you got it at wholesale for $5, you're gonna sell it for $10, right? So you can make a $5 commission on it, or however, whatever that profit margin you want. But they're saying that they're not going off of the amount that you deemed it being worth. They're going off of the average market rate.
Right.
Average market price for that product.
Man, that's like the star of this whole section right here, because that average market price continues to come up. So if you're not educated on the average market price of the products you're selling, or those types of products that fit that profile, please get educated on that. I don't understand how you can actually run a retailing cannabis business or any retailer without actually understanding what that product or something like it is going for in the market, right? And then we also want to make sure we explain, just to create the separation from the two, of the non-arm's length transaction. The non-arm's length transaction is a transaction that does not meet the definition of an arm's length transaction. In other words, the transaction does not reflect the fair market price in the open market between two informed and willing parties. For example, a non-arm's length transaction will be a transaction between a cannabis business that is both a distributor and a retailer of their cannabis product, or a transaction within a micro business engaging in those activities. Look, in a non-arm's length transaction, the average market price, that AMP, means the cannabis retailer's gross receipts from the retail sale of the cannabis or the cannabis products. Okay, so really key. Shout out to my Cannabruhz, right? Really key is that in a non-arm's length transaction, the average market price is no longer what it's set at in the open market. It's now based off of the gross receipts from the retailer that sold the cannabis or cannabis product. Yep. I hope that really helps, right? So now it's not about that. I don't know. I don't really want to give a real example, because it could be so many different things. But just if they said that something's $15 as the average market price for this product, right, and you're selling it at 20, right, then in a non-arm's length transaction, they're basing it off of the 20, not basing it off of 15 if that's the average market price for that item. So and
just to throw in my 2 cents real quick.
No, throw it in.
Just so people understand why, right? So if you look at the definition of an arm's length transaction, it says the fair market price in the open market between two informed and willing parties, right? Mm-hmm. So two separate entities, two separate people are creating a transaction between each other. Right. But if you look at a non-arm's length transaction, the entity, so the business, could be both of those parties. So instead of Jerell being the producer, right, and selling to Corey, the retailer, right, Jerell is now the producer and the retailer. Right. So you're naturally going to give yourself a better deal on the business side. Right. It's like, why would I charge myself more when I can get a better rate? Right. Hence why they're saying, no, we're not going off of the rate that you give yourself as a cultivator or a distributor, and you're giving that product back to yourself as the retailer. No, what we're going to do is we're going to charge you on we're going to go off of your gross receipts. So we're going to go off of what you sell it for. Right. versus what you got it for, because what you got it for
could have been next to nothing.
Could be next to nothing. You're not getting it from yourself
right
at the open market, fair market price.
Nobody gets that much of a break.
Right. So they're saying, but you're gonna sell it at the point where it benefits you.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, good explanation.
Hopefully that the arm's length and non-arm's length kind of makes more sense to everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
Let us know in the comments if you understood that, or if you got any more questions in regards to the length of your arm in the transaction. the arm's length transaction.
My left one's always been shorter than my right.
Well, they always said my wingspan was off.
Yeah.
And now it makes sense. It's a non-arm's length.
You know how we get though, but we gonna move on, right? So covering down on the cannabis excise tax and sales tax computation. Okay, the cannabis excise tax is 15% of the average market price or of cannabis or cannabis products sold in a retail sale, and the sales tax is based on your gross receipts. The examples provide sample scenarios and guidance on how the cannabis excise tax and sales tax are computed. Now, right here on this website, cdtfa.ca.gov, in the retailers tab, you're actually going to get more. They're going to go into it. As Corey's mentioned before, we can go into dive in too deep into the weeds on the weed.
Right.
But yeah, and make sure that's understood.
Yeah. One thing is, you'll see it when they tack on the excise tax for the products. You'll see it. They're supposed to include that at the bottom of the invoice or the bottom of the receipt. So you should be able to see that. Yeah,
it should be using that same phrase that we kind of brought up before, legally stating where the tax liability lied. So now we're going to transition now from the retailer or the dispensary to the cultivator. So a cultivator is a person who engages in the business of planting, growing, harvesting, drying, curing, grading, or trimming cannabis. Yep. So a micro business licensed to act as a cultivator must comply with all the same requirements of a cultivator. Now, they mentioned that a lot too. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's because once again, in a different Cannabruhz episode, we covered down on the different types of business classifications within the cannabis realm in a certain place, right? And we talked about the micro businesses, right? Micro businesses are able to operate with multifaceted, right? They can have different operations, different functions, all within the same umbrella. So they're saying that just because you can't just claim that you are I'm a micro business, right? That's the reason I didn't comply with the cultivation rules, because I'm not a cultivator, right? It's like, well, if you have cultivation operations, then yeah, you are a cultivator and you are required to do these things. Right. Now, as far as a cultivator, so again, you got to have a seller's permit registered with the CDTFA. Mm-hmm. But you also, as we stated earlier when we were talking about the distributor, you have to pay your cultivation tax to that distributor or that manufacturer. Yep. Right. So again, you're not paying that cultivation tax to the CDTFA. You're paying it to your distributor, and then that distributor is going to give you that invoice. Right. Now, again, you got to e-file, which means electronically file your sales and use tax returns on the day that is due. Mm-hmm. And of course, you can do that online. And even if this is a big piece, because we get a lot of questions of how do I pay sales tax for my cultivation when I didn't sell my products like a retailer. So why do I have to pay sales tax? So this sentence says, even if you do not make taxable sales of cannabis, mm-hmm. you are still
required to file a return indicating your total sales with your claimed non-taxable or exempt sales during that particular reporting period. I say again, you are still required to file a return indicating your total sales. Okay. So again, as a cultivator, you still got to report that information. You still got to report your total sales.
Yeah, it's ended up somewhere, right? Like you had to give and collect from somebody, and that's the distributor. So you didn't sell directly to the consumer, but there was a transaction, right? And that's a sale.
Right. You want to educate them on how to apply the cultivation tax?
Yep. So a lot of people will be wondering, and the cultivation tax applies to all the harvested cannabis. Oh my gosh, that enters the commercial market. Cannabis enters the commercial market when the cannabis or cannabis products, except for immature cannabis plants, clones or seeds, have completed and complied with both the quality assurance review and testing as required in the Medicinal and Adult Use Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act. Okay. So the cultivation tax applies to all harvested cannabis that enters the commercial market. Cannabis that enters the commercial market when the cannabis enters the commercial market when the cannabis or cannabis products, except for immature plants, clones, or seeds, have completed and comply with both the quality assurance review and testing as required in the Medicinal and Adult Use Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act. If the cannabis or cannabis product does not pass the required testing, cannot be remediated, and does not enter the commercial market, you are entitled to the return of the cannabis or the cultivation tax that was collected from you, right? Because we talk about it changing hands and who pays who. The distributor is responsible for returning the cultivation tax that was collected from you. So most people are going to want their full refund, right? So in the event that it doesn't pass the testing, all of that is to be returned. So, don't do anything shady, okay? Make sure we return that. And I know we were saying before, what actually counts as sales to a distributor, right? Because we talked about, hey, you still have to pay sales and use tax as a cultivator, okay? The sales to a distributors are required to collect the cultivation tax from you as the cultivator on all harvested cannabis based on weight and category of the cannabis that enters the commercial market. And everything that's under that, if it qualifies as that, if it's harvested cannabis that makes weight, tests well, that's a sale, right? And then sales to the manufacturer, if you just want to know, if the first transfer or sale of unprocessed cannabis is to a manufacturer and not a distributor, the manufacturer is required to collect the cultivation tax from you at the time of the first sale or transfer of the unprocessed cannabis based on the weight and category of the cannabis sold or transferred. The cultivation tax you pay to the manufacturer will be passed on to the distributor for payment to the CDTFA. So they want to just make sure that, hey, you're not upset with the tax because you've already collected that, already collected the cultivation tax at the time, and that was paid to the manufacturer, passed on to the distributor, and that from the distributor gets paid to the CDTFA, which we already covered.
And for my cultivators, so that's not a loophole, right?
No, it is not.
So selling to a manufacturer does not get rid of the responsibility of you having to pay that excise tax.
That's a great point. You
still have to pay the excise tax to that manufacturer. And it's just like an extra step, right? So you're not going directly to the distributor and paying it to them. You're paying it to the manufacturer. The manufacturer will pay it to the distributor. Right. So always remember that.
Yeah. And you should be looking for that. And so should they. Right. They should be looking with their hand out for you to pay the tax as well, which that should be included in the price. And the invoicing requirements. Tell us about the invoicing requirements.
Now, when it comes to any type of tax, when it comes to any type of accounting, substantiating documentation is key, right? So if you're ever audited by the state, ever audited by the city, or whatever authority that's auditing you, you want to make sure that all your invoices and receipts and everything are done correctly. So how you know your invoice is correct as the cultivator, is so on your invoice or the receipt. So what it should identify is the distributor's name or the manufacturer's name as the licensee receiving that product. Then your name as the cultivator, the associated unique identifier for that cannabis, right? So if you have a RFID tag on there or however you have it identified, it has to be on there. The amount of the cultivation tax, the weight and category of the cannabis. So the weight and category on the receipt or the invoice shall be equal to the weight and category recorded by the California Cannabis Track and Trace System, or, you know, if they're using metric or whatnot. And then the date of sale or transfer, right? So you need to have all 6 of those requirements on your invoice or receipt. So, because again, you don't want to set yourself up for failure if an audit happens and they're looking at your invoices and it's missing information. Because then
dates, missing the amount, it doesn't line up.
Then you're setting yourself up for additional penalties and additional interest on your tax that you paid, and nobody wants to pay money for no reason.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. Cultivation, yeah, we're going through more verbiage, you know. So, but make sure you definitely, if you don't quite understand the verbiage that's being used when going through the site, make sure you take your time as they have laid out all of the industry topics and terminology here on cdtfa.ca.gov. Yep.
All right, so the last piece, we're going to move on to the manufacturers. So this will be it'll be pretty similar to what we just covered on the cultivation piece, but this is just breaking down the last vertical in this piece.
Absolutely. And a cannabis manufacturer is a person who produces or prepares cannabis and cannabis products at a fixed location, packages or repackages cannabis or cannabis products, or labels or relabels its container. So if you are the person that handles, so you can just simply be packaging, you could be labeling, or you can actually prepare the cannabis and cannabis products at a certain location. Now, remember, and if it does, that it complies with the same requirements that are imposed on the manufacturers. And if you are a cannabis manufacturer, those requirements would be to register with the CDTFA for your seller's permit. That's been across the board. Collect the cannabis cultivation tax from the cultivators from which you receive unprocessed cannabis and provide the cultivator with a receipt. Simple enough. The manufacturers and cultivators have to work together. It's kind of a given, but make sure that you actually collect the cultivation tax from the cultivator if you're only manufacturing the unprocessed cannabis. You also have to pay the cultivation tax collected from the cultivators to your distributor. So go ahead and pass that along. No need to put it in your pocket. Also, you are required to electronically file your sales and use tax returns and pay any sales and or use tax owed to the CDTFA. Corey, go and hit him with that. Even if what?
Even if you do not make taxable sales of cannabis, you are still required to file a return indicating your total sales with your claimed non-taxable or exempt sales during the particular reporting period.
Yep. Also, don't forget, once again, the California Department of Public Health. You know, actually, this is a new one. For manufacturers, it is the California Department of Public Health, where it's not the Bureau for this one. And of course, you can still contact your city and or county government office for information on your local licenses and what's needed to obtain it. Okay.
Now, the cannabis cultivation tax is exactly the same as we discussed previously. The amount is the same.
It's the same tax. You're collecting it from the cultivators. You're giving it to the distributors. Same tax.
Now, let's break this down. So if you donate medicinal cannabis,
talk about
so starting on March 1st, 2020, California law provides that the cultivation tax will not be imposed on medicinal cannabis designated for donation by a cultivator in the California Cannabis Track and Trace system. Additionally, the use tax does not apply to any medicinal cannabis or medicinal cannabis products, which is medicinal cannabis, right. donated by a licensee to a cannabis retailer for subsequent donation to a medicinal cannabis patient.
That's awesome, by the way. You know, if it's truly medicinal, you know, it's helping someone medicinally, then I don't see why, you know, there should be a use tax imposed on that. So that's great.
Now, the question, so what if I'm a manufacturer and I sell my product to another manufacturer, do I still have to pay that tax?
That's a great question. No, that's a great question. So what is it? What's the answer?
So as a manufacturer of cannabis, when you receive unprocessed cannabis from a cultivator, you're required to collect the cultivation tax based on the weight and category of the cannabis, right?
Okay, got it.
So let's just go ahead and get this in your heads. So in general, if it's unprocessed cannabis, right, mm-hmm. no matter who you're collecting it from, you need to collect that excise tax from that entity. So right. if you collect it from another cultivator, if you collect it from another manufacturer, it doesn't matter. Right. You collect the excise tax from them. Now, if you're selling it to another manufacturer, so let's just say it's going from manufacturer to manufacturer to manufacturer, right? You know what they're going to do? They're going to collect that excise tax from you as well.
Collect and pass.
That's all it is until it gets to that distributor. Then that distributor is going to collect that tax from whatever manufacturer, right?
Yep.
And they're going to pay that out to the CDTFA.
Yep.
That's pretty much it.
Yep.
Just keep it simple.
That's it.
And a lot of this information is the same that we've been talking about. Now, I do want to include this piece right here. Mm-hmm. So as a manufacturer, you may sell samples of promotional items to a retailer. Mm. However, the distributor that transfers the samples to a retailer on behalf of the manufacturer is responsible for collecting the cannabis excise tax from the retailer. Mm. The manufacturer may be responsible for sales or use tax. So if you're the manufacturer and you are selling additional products, you may be responsible for sales or use tax for those sales.
Okay.
Yep.
Understood. And make sure your network is tight for that. You know, because you need to know, as a retailer, who your manufacturer is, and make sure that's an early understanding. You have to make sure that's an early understanding that this is going to be picked up from the distributor, passed along to me only for promotional purposes. That tax is still going to be imposed, and me and you have to have something worked out where we know that that's either in the price. Well, just needs to be in the price. Yeah.
Now, if our voices weren't entertaining enough for you, and you want a little bit less enthusiasm, then what you can do is you can go to videos.
Yeah.
And they got videos for you. And this video breaks down how to file a cannabis tax return for distributors and for retailers.
Yeah.
And it breaks it all down for you. It breaks down exemption sales from medicinal cannabis and all that information. So I definitely highly recommend, if you're in California and you're operating any one of the verticals, a distributor, retailer, cultivator, manufacturer, or if you're just a micro business and you're trying to figure out which one you want to go into, definitely take a look at the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. They have plentiful amount of information to assist you in making the right determination on whether you should charge excise tax or not, and everything we just covered, plus a wealth more of knowledge.
In order to pay them.
Yep. So they can get that money from you.
It's like, let me show you. This is horrible. That is so funny. That is like, let me give you a manual on how to please me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what's key. I want to break it down. I'm gonna have 2 guys from Texas break it down for you. I'm gonna break it down. I'm gonna have tabs so you fully understand. There's gonna be so many links. There's no way that you can put an excuse on this. You know exactly what you should be doing. These are the same people you have to pay.
They said, I'm tired of you messing up my money.
Come on.
You don't mess up. You don't play with Cali's money.
Yeah, maybe you didn't understand. Like, this is okay. You've done this a couple times now. Maybe.
So we're gonna break this down Barney style, just so you can give me my money.
Give me my money. No, but they do a great job of it. So let's be honest. I mean, every place that you had to pay, if every place that you had to pay was actually breaking down how to be compliant with their requirements and how you can pay them, like how you can get a break on the tax, how it doesn't necessarily have to come out of your pocket, wouldn't you listen? I would. I personally would. So shout out to them. And it's interesting, if you're in a different state too, I know we sometimes can make it really geographically specific. If you're in a different state, make sure you do this, something similar to this same type of research, looking into what your state's tax and fee administration or where those taxes and fees get paid to. See if they have something set up to help you along with the process. And I know you can trust your trusted accounting professionals and tax professionals, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're in the know. Somebody in-house should be in the know. That's all.
And let us know in the comments if you have a state that you want us to cover. Oh yeah. Let us know in the comments. And if we get enough of that state, we'll make a video on that information. Yeah. Or if you have any requests on particular topics from that state, let us know. And if there's enough people that want it, we'll sit down and see if there's enough material for us to go through for it.
Yeah, we're gonna make it happen. Yep. And by the way, make sure you continue to stay tuned to the Cannabruhz. We got many, many, many more episodes coming where we will dive into this overall state tax reporting. We're going to dive into how to make those cash payments. I understand that it's still a cannabis business. So, cash businesses are heavy, in the industry. It is the industry. So we will be diving back into that. So, stay tuned if you need a little bit more. But hey, continue to go to cdtfa.ca.gov for any needed information on how you can be compliant and take care of your tax reporting. Okay. And it's just like that. You know what it is, man. Putting them on game. We do. Okay. Yeah. Yep. So that's what it is. This has been another segment of put you on
game.
Yes, sir.
Game.
Yeah. For sure. All right. And you know what that means. If we're done with put you on game, then we're gonna conclude this episode with your what do you call it? You're going to conclude this episode with our way of giving you your flowers. We're talking about plug talk.
Plug talk.
Hey,
that was a strong P at the whole look. It's like
that strong P like you in church. on the front
row, front pew.
On the front pew with your grandma. It's you, your grandma, your siblings. That's how hard he had to hold that P. Plug talk. Y'all know what it is, man. And today, what we wanted to do, we wanted to give you guys kind of a different look. We always talk about the retailers as far as people that are actually moving that cannabis and cannabis products, right? But what about the businesses? What about the organizations organizations, the entities, the places that you can go to that can actually be a source of information other than the Cannabruhz, right? And then I know this.
Okay.
I know that sounds crazy for our Cannabruhz listeners and everything like that. And we appreciate all the Cannabruhz and Cannagirls that rock with us, but we're going to put you on something. This segment of Plug Talk, we're going to be covering the Black Cannabis Magazine. Okay. So they are on IG. Their handle is Black Cannabis Magazine, spelled just like that. So Black Cannabis Magazine. So yeah, we're talking about Black Cannabis Magazine. So first thing, shout out to Black Cannabis Magazine. Super dope. We're talking about a print and digital media publication based out of LA. They're also on Social Tap. Man, Black Cannabis Magazine has a really dope way of kind of tying in everything. It's about the culture, from the products to new opportunities, new programs to help educate and push the movement forward. As you can see, we ain't the only ones talking about Chris Webber and what they're doing over at Players Only Holdings, right? Yep. There's so many other not only just people of color, but there's so many other people in general that are getting involved in the movement, because this is here to stay. People realize that I might as well get involved. We've also covered Viola on this channel.
Yes,
we've covered Viola, and they're doing things to also encourage education. We've talked about Dr. Green Thumbs.
Dr. Green Thumbs.
With look, Black Cannabis Magazines, man, look, this is an invitation informally from the Cannabruhz. Okay, we need to work together on some things. Okay, all right. Yep. So they have, of course, a really dope page. I kind of like the way the page is set up. They have a certain look, and it's always about that look. When you're in publication magazine, it's not only about the information. Timely information is great, but I like the way that they lift up these different entities, and these young ganjapreneurs, these famous ganjapreneurs, right? These ganjapreneurs that are people of color. It's really dope. I just like what they're doing, man. And so make sure you definitely follow the movement. They make sure they encourage entrepreneurship within the BIPOC by providing also a retail store locator on their actual Social Tap. So if you are, if you are actually in an area where you are legal or even medically, medicinally legal, make sure you actually check them out, man. Check them out, because they got a way to find and locate a place near you that'll serve you with all your cannabis and cannabis products, taking care of your cannabis needs. Can I get a witness?
Hey, Graham. Hey, Graham.
Hey, Graham.
Hey, Graham. Can I get a witness? Hey, Graham.
Hey, Graham.
Hey, Graham. That's funny.
Man, that's it, man. They do a great job of merging the culture and cannabis and the cannabis culture in itself. So big shout out from the Cannabruhz to you over there at Black Cannabis Magazine.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That. Yeah. So man, look, we first of all just want to thank you guys for rocking with us, continuing to rock with us. I mean, we definitely got our foot in, maybe our knee in at this point, but we're not going to stop. We're going to keep applying pressure when it comes to educating, and it wasn't just educating. Corey, we talked about this before, not just educating, but it wasn't educating, leading, and some of those conversations that need to get recorded on the phone. But we,
I don't know, Matt.
Huh?
I say a lot of stuff.
it be flowing off the dome.
Yeah,
it be flowing.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, no, man. But seriously though, we just appreciate you guys. Like, we want to see more love, man. Drop some of those, you know, give me a cannabis emoji or something. Or you could always drop the fire emoji, but just let us know, you know, saying that you appreciate what we got going on here. Let us know also if you visited either, let's say you visited Black Cannabis Magazine, you know, you have used the retail store locator. Tell us about these things. Tell us about if you've gotten product from the Viola campaign. Tell us about if you've gone to Ball Family Farms. You know what I'm saying? Tell us about all, you know, yeah, make sure if you've gone to jttip.com. You know what I mean? It's so many different really dope entrepreneurs out there and people in the space and around the space that are trying to push the movement forward. I mean, ultimately, we all need it, you know, and we're gonna all be better off for it. This is a brand new opportunity. So if you're just business minded, and you need to know that this is a gold mine, a green mine, if that, right? So please make sure you take care of this baby, this beautiful movement with this beautiful flower, you know what I'm saying? And let's do it, you know, man. So to the movement.
Yeah, to the movement, to the lifestyle. It's one team, one fight.
Yep.
You know, we're all about sharing the wealth, sharing the love, and helping build and bring everybody else up, man. It takes teamwork to have that positive impact in the Black and brown communities. You know, it takes us all, like I said, working together and educating and making moves, man.
That's a fact.
And I mean, I'm excited to even have this platform to be able to speak to you all, man. Like, just, you know, me and Jerell had so many conversations just talking about, like, man, this would be great information for other people, for other business owners. So again, thank y'all, man. Thank y'all for the love. Thank y'all for continuously listening, continuously showing love, and we're gonna keep bringing y'all the fresh content.
No doubt.
And yeah,
just like that. Yeah. So that's about it. You want to send us off the formal way?
Yeah. So make sure you know you're supporting the movement.
Yep.
Hashtag Seed to Success. Hashtag Black and brown faces and green spaces.
Yep.
Hashtag Cannabruhz. Right? Yeah. Hashtag Harvest AF. And what's the AF stand for?
A fire ass podcast. So you know exactly where you should be coming.
I think we used that before, but we're gonna rock with it. Boom! Fire coming out the speakers.
Let me see. We need to put some fire above this. I don't know. Make my hair catch on fire, like all this crazy. Put the graphics in there. Man, thank y'all. Thank y'all once again.
Yes, sir.
That's my Cannabruhz Corey. It's your boy Jerell. Don't forget to continue to support the movement. And we out.
Sir.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Here to give you knowledge that you didn't know. Put you on some game, now you got a buzz. You are now listening to Cannabruhz.